Good afternoon. I'm Dan Piergallini. I'm president of the Gator Cutlery Club of Tampa. Leroy wants us to talk a little bit about Lile knives today. Jimmy Lile, who is known as the Arkansas knife maker. If you were to Google Jimmy Lile or the Arkansas knife maker, you'll find about 16,000 hits on Jimmy Lile. Jimmy Lile's reputation came about after he made the first two Rambo movie knives for Mr. Stallone. And that's where he really came into his claim to fame. I happen to be a collector of Lile knives, hunters, skinners, fighting knives. Most infamous for his Lile button lock, which he patented the system. The button lock works with the button pushing in. It pops out when it's closed so it won't open. Push the button in so it opens back up. These have become very desirable and expensive along the way. If you can see in this box right here, most of Lile's products use natural handle materials, a lot of stag material. One of the first people to do actual finger groove grinds for his bigger, larger fighters. Lile's legacy goes back to the mid to late 60s, making knives. His wife Marilyn, in the old days, like on this knife, rather than having a stamp for a name, was actually etched in with a diamond engraver, and the knife says, handmade by James B. Lile. Well, Marilyn marked all of these knives for Jim after the knife was made. All of his knives, tapered tangs, red liners, just beautifully done. Made a lot of working type knives. Jimmy died in 1991, and after he passed away, like a lot of the top knife makers around who are deceased, his knives went through the roof as far as money goes and expenses. He double ground. His big claim to fame, little hunters and skinners, hunting and folding knives. I received a gift from a man. This is an incompleted Lile. It's the scales and the blade ready to be assembled. That's how much I care for the Lile knife. It still has a stamp on the blade, but this is not for sale. This is heirloom material. Jimmy also made for Ducks Unlimited and other people a varied amount of knives with their logos in them. This one happens to be a Ducks Unlimited. This is the old etch, late 60s knife. Later on in life, Jimmy went to a stamped knife with the words Lile. There are some Lile knives out there made after he passed away. Marilyn Lile sold the business to a friend of hers who continued to have the Lile knives made with other mechanics. But in between the LI and the LE, there was a little dot above, and that's how it was denoted that this was an after-death knife. Anything without the dot is a pre-death knife. And again, Lile died in 1991. He was a member of the Knife Makers Guild for years and years till he passed away. I find them attractive, they're collectible, and they make a few bucks now and then. They're getting rarer and rarer to find. I just attended the Tulsa, Oklahoma Gun and Knife Show. I walked 4,200 tables, 11 acres under one roof to find one Jimmy Lile button lock knife. This one was made in 1985, the years inside the back spring. It's priceless as far as I'm concerned.
Tell me some more, because that's my interest in button locks. He has a patent on that, and could you show us how it works?
The lock was patented some years ago. I don't have my goggles on. Hold on. It has a patent number on it, but not the year. But it is a patented button lock. The button is here. It's a spring backup. In order to close the knife, you have to push in on the button, close it down, and then the button pops back out and it's locked in. To open it, you push the button, open the knife, the button pops out and therefore is locked open and will not collapse. Jimmy patented that. Most of the casings on the knife are nickel silver, been stamped with inlays of ivory, wood, pearl, micarta, stag, you name it. These knives were built with all kinds of inlays. There is a number on the blade, on the back of the blade. This one says 181. The number is not a serial number or the number of knives made. The number was stamped into the blade, into the button, and into the back spring as the knife was heat treated, so that those parts, when they were retrieved from the heat treating oven, could be reassembled as that unit. In other words, each one of those parts would have 181 on them, so that they would go back into the same knife prior to the heat treating, and then after the heat treating. All of his blade steel is D2. Most of all of his knives were D2 steel, which is a very hard, almost totally stainless steel. D2 lacks 1% of chromium in order to make it a true stainless steel. So it's almost a stainless steel, but not quite. I don't know what else to tell you about the Liles, other than I really like them and they're collectible.
Okay, that's pretty good. Thank you, Dan.